Hi there, my name is Christopher Lee. Welcome to Cells Alive, the show where we talk about all the basic building blocks of life. That's right, we're going to be talking about cells. What do me, you, my dog, my babysitter, and this plant all have in common? That's right, we're all made of cells. This is the first episode of Cells Alive, brought to you by P.7 Network. Stay tuned for cells in our everyday life. First, let's start by explaining what cells really are. Cells are the basic building blocks of life. There are two categories of cells. There are prokaryotes and eukaryotic cells. You are made of eukaryotic cells. That's how you remember it. There are also two types of eukaryotic cells. Those are plant and animal cells. First, we will talk about animal cells. All animals are made of eukaryotes. This is a picture of a generic animal cell. The parts of a generic animal cell are the vesicle, the centrioles, the ribosomes, the rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, try saying that 10 times fast, cytoplasm, the nucleus, the nucleolus, and the mitochondria and the cell membrane, or the plasma membrane, and the lysosomes. Let's talk a little bit about what the parts of the animal cell do. These are called organelles. Organelles are the parts or sections of a cell that do specific jobs. The organelles of an animal, plant, and prokaryotic cells can be different. Let's start by explaining some of the jobs that these organelles do. Let's move on with the plant cells. Plant cells are similar to animal cells. Plant cells have all the organelles that animal cells have, except for centrioles and lysosome. We'll get to those later. But they do have a couple things that animal cells don't have. These are chloroplast, which enables photosynthesis to occur, and a cell wall, which is similar to a cell membrane. Now, let's start talking about maybe the most obvious example of cells in everyday life: white blood cells. White blood cells spots its prey. It pounces, but the bacteria is nimble, and it starts to make a run for it. Eager to fulfill its duty, the white blood cell chases the bacteria. Bacteria dodges and weaves through the red blood cells, desperate to not become yet another victim of the white blood cell. Finally, the battle is done. The bacteria lives no more. First, we will talk all about white blood cells. White blood cells are an essential cell of your body because they help fight off dangerous infections, diseases, and bacteria. There are many more red blood cells than white blood cells in your body. All of these cells are flowing through your veins as we speak. Doctors use white blood cells almost every day in medicine. Doctors use a white blood cell count where they count all of the white blood cells in your body. They do this to check to see if anything's wrong with your body. If your body is producing an abnormally large amount of white blood cells, the doctors know that something is wrong because your body is trying to fight off an infection or disease. Each cell has organelles. Organelles are parts that cells need to survive. I'll be explaining all of the organelles, but I will split them up. Nucleus is a storage space for all of the genetic coding. The genetic coding is also known as deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. This is essential for the reproduction of cells. If a cell was a city, the nucleus would be the library full of information and technical documents about the city. Right. Nucleolus is part of the nucleus, dense region where ribosomes are made. Ribosomes are very important. This is important because ribosomes, as smaller as they are very important in the assembly of proteins. Ribosomes are organelles that contain enzymes. They attack harmful bacteria or viruses that are trying to take the cell down. They can also break down worn-out cell parts. If the cell is a city, the lysosomes could be two things. They could be the police force trying to take down bacteria by the hundreds, or they could be the garbage collectors cleaning up the streets of the cell or city. Now, let's get back to the cells in our everyday life. Leaves! They may be more interesting than you thought. Don't you think it's interesting that this green pointy leaf is classified as the same category as this beautiful orange leaf. Furthermore, almost all plants have their own unique leaves, from those pesky weeds in your backyard to the neighbor's prickly pine trees to far out aquatic seaweed. Almost
Far out, dude.
Almost all plants have leaves. Leaves are used to gather nutrients from the plant in the form of sunlight. Sunlight is then converted to sugars with a cool little thing called chloroplast and the process of photosynthesis.
Re-say that, cause no, re-say that whole part of the sentence.
Photosynthesis.
The whole sentence.
Okay, I want to watch. So the mitochondria is a supply of energy to the cell. Mitochondria is similar to our tummies. It creates a series of chemical reactions that turn proteins and lipids into usable energy for the cell to use. If the cell were a city, the mitochondria would be the power plant that keeps the whole city running. Now, let's get back to cells in our everyday life. Look outside.
Oh, I'm gonna be in it.
You probably see trees. Trees are a type of plant. Think of a tree as a really old plant. The older that a plant gets, the harder and thicker the stem gets. When trees have stems that are so hard, they are used to make houses. Look around you. You're probably in a building. That building is probably made of some sort of wood. Now, the inside layer of a trunk is called cork. Cork is very grainy and is used in everyday life. Just look at the bulletin board in your room. It's made of cork. Cork cells have large and strong cell walls designed to molecularly to support weight while being light, while being fairly soft. Start the video?
Yep.
Okay. Chloroplasts are only found in plants and are paramount in photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process where a plant gets energy from the sunlight. Not from solar panels, but from organelles called chloroplast. Chloroplasts are the packs filled with chlorophyll inside of them. This is a picture of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a chemical that is very vital to photosynthesis. Cytoplasm is the goo that is inside of the cell. If the whole cell is the city, the cytoplasm would be the streets and roads throughout the city. The cytoplasm fills in all the gaps between the organelles. Cell wall. The cell wall is found in plant cells, and it is very prominent in wood and cork. The cell wall offers protection and gives the cell its shape. Thick cell walls, such as in wood, is the reason why wood is so hard. If the cell is a city, the cell wall would be the wall around a city, giving the city its shape and some protection. Okay. Vesicles is a very general term for tiny sacs that divide materials from the rest of the cytoplasm, which is the cell goo, and is used to transport materials from place to place. They are found in plants and animal cells. I like to think of the cell as a city, and all of the organelles as little parts of the city. I picture vesicles as a tiny delivery man delivering packages for all the other organelles. Up next, we're talking about skin cells. Skin cells. They're very useful in everyday life. Look at my head. It's made of skin cells. Skin cells, it's what holds us together and keeps us from falling apart into little muscly goo. Ugh. Okay, the cell membrane, or plasma membrane, is a semi-permeable wall that separates the inside of the cell from the outside of the cell. Semi-permeable means some substances can get in, but some cannot. If the cell is a city, then the cell membrane is like a wall around the city, only letting some people in. The endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum is like an assembly line of ribosomes, creating proteins and lipids for the cell to use. Ribosomes are tiny little amino acids that link proteins together. The endoplasmic reticulum has many creases and folds, just like DNA, so it can scrunch up those tiny assembly lines into microscopic size. into a microscopic size. From the endoplasmic reticulum, the proteins move to the Golgi apparatus. If the endoplasmic reticulum is an assembly line, then the Golgi apparatus is a warehouse. Okay. If the endoplasmic reticulum is an assembly line, then the Golgi apparatus is a warehouse where all the stuff is stored and waiting to be shipped. Thank you for watching. This is all the time that we have. But tune in to next week's episodes, Organs and What They Do.